Hello and Merry Christmas. This is Carl with a game design video. This is for a little project that I made last Christmas as kind of a spur of the moment idea, concept project that I just kind of pulled off at the last minute with the help of some of my family, with the illustrations and some of the designs, and obviously the play test. We played one game of this. It was pretty fun, and it was rough around the edges for sure. There's a lot of numbers and point values that could have been tweaked and so on. But the game is Reindeer Draft. 'Tis the Christmas season, and you are trying to draft the best assortment of reindeer to ferry Santa Claus and all of the toys that he needs to deliver around the world. And the best sleigh will earn the most points. I was inspired by the idea of a Sushi Go type game or Seven Wonders, where you get a hand of 6 or 7 cards and you pick one, and then you pass to the left, and then you pick from one fewer cards, and you do normally 3 rounds of that. For this, I decided to do 2 rounds, one for each hemisphere of the world. So you've got the Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere, and after each round, you've got your sleigh of reindeer. And after the first round, you can have 5 reindeer in your sleigh, but in the second round, you can have up to 7. And you can tag your reindeer in and out of your sleigh when you score points for each round. So that way, for the second round, you have kind of a sense of, improvement and building upon what you already had happen in the first round. And you have more options in the second round to kind of optimize your points. It's a little different than Sushi Go and Seven Wonders in that each card usually gives you points towards one type of point. So like if you get a military card in Seven Wonders, that's only going to ever get you military points on the military scoring track. If in Sushi Go you get like the shrimp tempura or whatever, that's only going to be points towards the shrimp tempura set collection. For this drafting game, I decided each reindeer would have different attributes, and you're trying to get a sum total of attributes among your reindeer, which kind of makes sense, I think, with reindeer. You don't have like one reindeer that does all of the flying and one reindeer that does all of the carrying or whatever. And so you're comparing their relative attributes, and there were 3 attributes that I decided would score differently. So we've got speed, strength, and Christmas spirit. Speed, I thought, would be a good risk reward one, where basically if you go for speed, you have to be the fastest. If you want speed points at the end of a round, you either have to be the first fastest or the second fastest. And so I think in my scoring chart here, I'll just show you that I made it. Obviously, you see how rough this was, right? Top speed was 15 points. Second fastest was only 3. Playtesting showed that was pretty severe, and that second fastest should probably get more than just 3 points. It should be 6. So there's some risk in going for speed. You either have to win it all or at least get second best, or else it's not very worth it. Strength, I decided, would be a different kind of point scoring. It would just be by thresholds. So, and that's, the stronger your reindeer are, the more presence that they can bring, and so therefore the most points. The more points. And so in the first round, if you have 8 strength, that's the minimum threshold, then you get 5 points. If you get 11 strength, that's 12 points. 14 points at 6. 14 strength, you get 16 points. And then those increase in the second round because you'll have more reindeer in your sleigh. And then Christmas spirit was just points. So that if you're not sure what's going on, you're not sure what you're going for, just get reindeer with lots of Christmas spirit, like Elton here. I wanted each reindeer to be unique and have their own name and flavor. I had some of my kids and my sister help with the art. Some of the art is better than others. Some of it is pretty cute. But yeah, because in like Sushi Go, you only have to memorize so many different cards, then you immediately know what they do. But in this, I wanted everything to be a little different, so there's a little bit more time reading each card. I have a bunch of vanilla reindeer. So the reindeer that just have the attributes, there's no special abilities to them. I tried to match their themes with their attributes. So like Richard the Crusader is extra strong. Elvis has tons of Christmas spirit. Fasty is fast. Elaine is also fast. Some of these names were just the first things that occurred when I asked the table of people, hey, what's a name for a reindeer? And they just came up with some. Some of the reindeer art is more interesting than others, but it's all wonderful and full of Christmas spirit. Yeah. So we have lots of these vanilla reindeer, I'll say, just so it's easier to immediately evaluate when you're staring at a hand of 6 or 7 cards. My favorite is Grunch, who's a play on the Grinch, and that was drawn by my son, my 9-year-old son, who was 8 at the time. He has no Christmas spirit, but he's very speedy and very strong, so kind of a play on the Grinch. Okay. Now, I wanted to also play up the set collection aspect of drafting games, because I think that's always a fun sideways strategy. There's that whole song, right? Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, and I thought there should be some bonus for getting them all, but that's quite an ask. Like, that's, 6 or 7 different reindeer. 7, I suppose. And so the way I did it is I had kind of a soft set where each one, so Dasher, for example, if you also have Dancer in your sleigh, you get an additional point. And then Dancer gives you an additional point if you have Prancer, and so on through the song. And I like that each card tells you the next lyric of the song, in the order of reindeer, which is always a fun little Christmas trivia game. Cupid is really abstract art. And then Donner is kind of a banana. And then we have Blitzen, who wrote, goes all the way back down to Dasher. And so if you're able to assemble those reindeer, collect those ones, you get a bunch of extra points. And you also have, they're pretty well rounded. Like their stats just kind of round out pretty well. Because I wanted this to be playable with up to 5 players, I needed to make a lot of cards. And so I have a 60 card deck. Most of them are reindeer, but I wanted to experiment with some other things too. So there's also sleigh upgrades, which I wanted to be kind of build around cards that, in lieu of taking a reindeer, because you don't always want to take a reindeer. If your sleigh is already full with the reindeer you want, you still have a few picks to spend on things. And so there's a few other things that you can pick that aren't just reindeer for your sleigh that will help you, go deep on certain strategies or signpost a certain thing that you want to do or interact with your opponents. Because that's one thing about drafting games. A lot of times the interaction is just in what cards you pick and what cards you notice your opponent's picking. But I like the kind of fun, cheeky ones where you can, as you draft a thing, it gives you an effect on some opponents. I just think more interaction is generally good as long as it's not too feel bad. There's one other source of points that I forgot to mention. At the end of the 2 rounds, the end of each round, you roll something called the Christmas die. And it's just a d6, and so you're going to get an average of 3.5 points just by rolling the Christmas die. And that's so that it wasn't just a matter of doing all the math and seeing how many points everybody was going to get, and then you just know who wins. I wanted there to be a little bit of variety, some spice, and some randomness at the end of each round. Not a ton, just 1d6 shouldn't make too big a difference in comparison to everything else. But just to kind of show that, the adventure of actually going out with your sleigh of reindeer and braving the elements and the magic of Christmas affecting the outcome. And I had a whole bunch of reindeer that actually interact with that roll of the die. For players who don't like the randomness and they want to control it more, I have reindeers for that. But in retrospect, those ended up being a little too much. Like, you could really abuse the Christmas die in a way that was maybe not healthy, and it made some reindeer just so much better than others. Anyway, so we've gone through the set collection of the reindeer song. Here's some other random ones. We have Nikki the Nice here. If none of your reindeer have less than 2 Christmas spirit, you get an extra point. And so that a little bit of a build around for having lots of reindeer that are full of the Christmas spirit, giving you bonus points. Craig, here's the Christmas die ones I was talking about. I don't know why he's a lobster or a crab, I suppose, but he is. If you roll an even number on the Christmas die, you get to add 1. And then we have Clyde, the reindeer. Clyde cares if you roll an odd one, you get to add 1. So that's a little bit risky too. You might pick the wrong reindeer and roll the wrong kind of number. Not sure how much I love these. We have Rudolph. If you roll a 2 or less on your Christmas die, you can re-roll it. So Rudolph basically prevents the worst case scenario from messing up all your plans, just like in real life. Lucky, you can choose to re-roll any of your Christmas die rolls once. I think that's probably just the best way to go with the Christmas die, and maybe just have 1 of Lucky. I don't know. And then we have Dolly. Double the final result of each roll of your Christmas die, which is an absurd amount of points. If you're not super concerned about speed and strength, Dolly gets you 2 points by herself, and then each, you're averaging 3 points without any additional bonus things to your dice from that. So that's a huge amount of points. Anyway, I'm going to get less into the spiky, which reindeer are the best discussion and talk more about the game design. Sorry about that. One thing that I was concerned about was the sleigh spots, because I wanted you to have 5 reindeer at the end of round 1, but you only start with a 6-card hand, which means that you pick 5 reindeer and you get to pick 1 other thing. And if you're short of the 5 reindeer, you're just kind of leaving points on the table. But then in round 2, you have another 6 picks, but you're only going up to 7 reindeer. And that means you get to swap some things around and optimize a bit, but also means there might be a lot of picks that feel a little wasted, like maybe you don't want tons of sleigh upgrades. It also means that the first round you're getting almost all reindeer, and in the second round you might be getting almost non-reindeer. To break that up a bit, we have some like super powered reindeer like James, who you have to retire them after 1 round. That means that they're super good in the second round, and then questionably good in the first round. I think overall they're probably too good. Here's some more to the interaction I was mentioning. Rambo, when you pick him, you can destroy another card in the hand that you're picking from, and then you replace it from the deck. That's a problem when you're using the whole deck, because you're doing 5 players and there's 60 cards or whatever. So that was something that I needed to tweak a little bit. All right, our stack's getting high and messing with the camera. All right, we got Angela. You can, with some little, you get to choose which attribute she has the most of near the end. So like you could go for speed with Angela, and then if you're not one of the top speedsters, be like, I'll just get Christmas Spirit instead. Not sure how much I loved that. I think knowing what your reindeer does as soon as you get it, so that you can plan on it later, is probably better. Honestly, having to make so many unique reindeer led to some designs like these where it was just some design space I wanted to try out because I needed to fill space. This one is Nael. I don't know why they have this name. I think I asked a kid how to spell Noel, and that's what they told me. When you pick it, you pick every card in the hand, but if you do, you don't get to pick any more cards in the round. So you can do this if you like all the cards in the hand, something that happens sometimes with draft where you're like, these are all the cards I've been waiting for, but I can only pick 1. This allows you to pick all of them. Then we got Corinne, who is a copy of anybody's reindeer, which can be pretty good. Jesse is another one you have to retire after 1 round. Just really good all-around stats. Bill is another choicer. Dobby counts as 2 reindeer. There's some weird mechanical corner cases with this. I don't remember what they were. I think it ended up meaning that Dobby's not actually that great. It's just kind of an all-around reindeer that takes 2 slots. Oh, I designed this because I knew that sometimes players would be like, oh shoot, I've picked too many non-reindeers and I'm not going to be able to fill out my sleigh, and I wanted some designs that helped you fill out the sleigh if you found yourself short on reindeer. So using one card pick to fill 2 spots on your sleigh was the idea here. Another one, you have to retire after 1 round. I think that's probably better as a single card mechanic, as opposed to, apparently I have it on at least 3. And then we have some more build around reindeer like Xander. Xander's a zombie reindeer, and he has no speed. And you get rewarded for having very slow reindeer here, so you're rewarded for not going for the risky speed strategy, and you get super strong reindeer who are able to always hit that maximum strength threshold and get the maximum number of points from the presents that you carry around. Although you will notice Xander is noticeably lacking in Christmas spirit, which is an unfortunate side effect of becoming a zombie reindeer. Stewart. When you pick Stewart, you can pick everything in that hand as long as you replace those cards from your sleigh. So it's a variation on a previous, the previous reindeer I mentioned, where you pick everything but then you're done with your picks. I think probably only one or the other is necessary. Percy is an interactive reindeer where when you pick him, you can make somebody else have to pick randomly their next round, which I think this is one interactive one that I don't like. You know, it removes options from other players in a game where sometimes you like literally have to pick a reindeer for your sleigh to even work, and then you're forced to randomly pick an item. That's not good. And then all of the other reindeer, kind of a play on that joke about all of the other reindeer from the song. He is just to kind of shine a light on the fact that you're going to be having some reindeer that won't fit on your sleigh. If you have Olive as one of those, he'll help you out. So he's good to pick in round 1 and then to retire back into your stable in the second round. Nicholas is a ninja reindeer who you can trade places with any reindeer of anybody else to kind of mess up their strategies. And then Perry is a pirate reindeer who can steal a non-reindeer card. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. You can really mess up somebody's build around strategies depending on what item you steal. So maybe worth a redesign. And then Blazer, he also is kind of a smoothing reindeer, kind of like Dobby the double reindeer was. Blazer, if you have picked too many items and you need to pick 2 reindeer, Blazer can help you do that. Alright, so now we're going to look at some sleigh upgrades. So these are things you use to modify your sleigh to get additional points or to make things easier for yourself. First is Racing Spoiler. If you have the fastest sleigh, you get extra points. So this is going deep on speed. Extra Storage is similar. If you reach the 3rd level of strength, you get extra points for that. And then we have a Christmas GPS. This is going deep on the Christmas die. If you'd roll a Christmas die, you can instead roll twice and pick one of the results. You combine this with something like Dolly and then double like a 6 instead of having to double like a 2 or 3. I mean, that's a huge number of points. The coal dispenser is my favorite. My son drew the art for that. If your neighbors have fewer Christmas spirit than you, then they lose points. You know, this is what they get for not being as full of the Christmas spirit as they should. And then Christmas Lights rewards having lots of reindeers who specifically have lots of Christmas spirit. And then the last sleigh upgrade, which never got arted for some reason, is Extra Harness, where you can harness an extra reindeer to your sleigh each round. We found immediate problems with this card. In the first round, my sister picked it. She's like, all right, I'm going to have 6 reindeer this round instead of 5. But then we realized, she only has 6 picks in in round 1. And so it's impossible to actually use the extra harness until the following round. So something needs to be rethought there. Now the last, how many cards are these? 8 cards to fill out the deck. I really like the Chopsticks in Sushi Go, which, for those who don't know, basically it's a card that you pick, and then at any time later you can return it to pick 2 cards instead of 1. I just liked how they interacted with the drafting, and dealt with that issue like I mentioned earlier of when you're drafting and there's more than one card you really want for your strategy, but you can only pick one. Maybe in drafting games it's okay for that to happen, like that's just something that happens in games. I think 4 candy cane ended up being too much. Yeah, it was 4 candy cane. Because a lot of times people would end up with candy cane that they didn't want. They desperately want reindeer, but then for their last pick, they're like, oh crap, I have to take the candy cane because somebody else just returned it, and instead of getting a reindeer, I have to get this candy cane. And then my son really wanted 1 rotten candy cane, which is like magnifying the feel bad of when you're stuck with a candy cane by making it also make you lose a point. Which, it's kind of funny, but it's not great game design, I don't think. And then we have 2 magic dust. Magic dust lets you roll an extra Christmas die each round. These are obviously especially good in round 1 because they double the points you get from it, because you get to use it both in the first round and in the second. I'm wondering if these items should be one use to kind of remove that. Like, oh, you can use your magic dust, but you can only use it the same round you draft it. It doesn't stick around. Like only sleigh upgrades and reindeer stick around. I think that would help. And then I needed 1 more card to get to 60 cards. So I made Prickly Holly, which is worth 1 point, but your neighboring players, they each lose a point. So those are all the cards I made. Woo! Lots of fun little individual reindeer designs. Some of the strategies worked out better than others. Lots of numbers could have been tweaked. But it was kind of fun to play. We did a 5-player game. Let me see if I can show you the score sheet. For as untweaked as this game was, for as like little thought went into like the scoring and such, it turned out that the total scores, wow, this is a weird angle for me, were actually fairly even. So Martha won with 79 by going all in on speed. Wow, this is really difficult to show. I'll just tell you. Martha, yeah, she won by winning the speed race in the second round. She got 20 points for having the fastest sleigh, whereas Sam only got 6 for being second fastest. And I think it was literally by like a point or 2. There, you can look at some reindeer. I think Sam would have won if we had more fair speed distribution. Like instead of 3 points for second place, you should get, 6 in the first round. And in the second round, instead of 6 points for second place, probably get like 12. Which would have given Sam 6 more points and Martha 3 more points. Oh, maybe Martha still would have won. The Christmas die, Laura went really deep on. She got, I think her name was Dolly and Lucky, and she had the magic dust and everything. And she was able to get 20 points from the Christmas die in the second round. And in the second round, you roll the Christmas die twice. Everybody does. Just to kind of add a little more fun variance to the end of the game. Show the dramatic events of Christmas Eve, trying to get those last presents to the final kids. So, in retrospect, in full, this was a fun project. It was a fun game. I like designing lots of cards. It probably would have been easier to just design a lot of the same kind of card, kind of like they have a Sushi Go, but that puts a little more weight on ensuring that everything's balanced correctly. Because if a card is imbalanced and there's like 7 copies of it in the deck, that's more of a problem than like having a single imbalanced card that there's only one of, I would definitely change a lot of the individual designs, change some of the point distributions, like have big rewards for hitting the final strength threshold, and big rewards for having the second fastest speed. But overall, it was pretty fun. Something I noticed about this game, I thought that the 2 rounds made sense. I think a 3rd round would have been a lot, especially since you got to read each card. Each card is unique except for the duplicates of the items. And it was a fair amount of time. It was, yeah, I think it was about the right amount of time for the amount of people who were playing. It's very pointy. And I don't mean like sharp, I mean pointy, as in you're doing a lot of calculating of points, like trying to optimize, like, is it better for me to get more Christmas spirit, or is it better for me to go deeper on speed? Have I hit my strength threshold yet? But also trying to manage, do I have enough reindeer for my sleigh? Do I have too many items? Do I need to worry about, the candy cane coming around the table and messing up one of my picks? Which I think is good. I think that's good gameplay, but I think it does make it less of a fun draft game for everybody game, because there's just so much math. And at the end of the game, you saw that huge piece of paper didn't even all fit under the camera. You've got to track tons of points, which makes it very difficult to know who on the table is ahead, who on the table is doing better than you. Yeah, it's kind of like Seven Wonders in that way, except in Seven Wonders, each card goes directly towards one kind of point, whereas in Reindeer Draft, each card contributes towards a bunch of different ways of getting points, whether it's Christmas spirit or strength or speed or the alternate things going on there, manipulating the Christmas die, um, which meant that you're just counting a lot over and over again, many times, which was unfortunate. I wonder if there's a good way to smooth that out. Um, I think that's probably the roughest part of the game, is just all the counting. And then some of the individual cards could have been a little bit better designed, but the overall play worked out. Like, there was enough play to the game that it was an enjoyable experience. So that was the game I made for Christmas last year for my family that we played and had a fair time. I'm making another Christmas game this year. I think I'm going to call it Secret Santa, and it's based on Secret Hitler. With some variations in the mechanics there. If that turns out well, I might make another video showing the design of that game. If I ever revisit this and make the changes that I'd mentioned, I might make it a print and play for maybe next Christmas. This game, Reindeer Draft, if there's interest. But either way, I'm really open to any thoughts, ideas, or feedback on this. What you guys think would be an interesting direction to take it, or some changes that you guys would recommend making. I'm all ears. Thank you guys for watching, and hope you enjoyed, and have a Merry Christmas.